Hello, folks, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Monday, the 26th of January. Last Thursday, I was on a Zoom conversation. Thank heavens for Zoom when you're working from home, with bishops, Anglican bishops from around the world, talking about the future of the communion and what does this look like and things like that. And they had a couple of people from a committee that works together, has been working together for years, who were sort of the experts in the field. And then I listened, and as other people asked questions, and I got to thinking, briefly, how absolutely inadequate I felt. Who am I to think that I fit in this group of educated, intelligent, thoughtful people from around the world, some of them from Canada, who have the capacity to do the work that's being done by this group, to ask questions about the work that this group is doing, to comprehend the articles and the papers that they present, that they prepare. And just sort of got, for a minute, got quite overwhelmed by feeling like I am the newbie in the room. And I am not. I'm not I checked out of the Canadian bishops that were participating. I'm not the most newly consecrated, um, by just a bit, but doesn't matter. But I got really feeling like, oh my heavens, what am I doing here? Like I'm faking it or something. And then as I started listening to the voices, I really stopped worrying about myself and started paying attention to what they were talking about. I realized they were all where I am once upon a time. And even if they weren't, because I mean, one of the people who was speaking, a guest speaker, had been involved in diplomacy for the government and had been involved in doing work in South Africa and things like that, which is incredible. They have all these other experiences that they've had in their lives that have given them the gifts to be able to do what they're doing in that moment at that time. And again, for a moment, I felt like, who am I? I'm like this kid who grew up in southwestern Ontario and then moved around a lot and, never really held a job for very long because we moved so much. And what do I bring to the table? And then I realized that in our inadequacies become our gifts. I am very fortunate that I am a bishop in a diocese that is not very large. I mean, geographically it's massive, but I don't have a lot of people. I don't have a lot of, we don't have a lot of finances. We don't have a lot of the problems that come with the finances. We have lots of issues, just like every other diocese has. But I don't have to be the CEO of hundreds of employees and dealing with, a raft of lawyers and or accountants and all of those things. I have dedicated people who work hard and do their best, and I have volunteers I can call and ask questions of. And you know what? It's sufficient. We have in my diocese pretty much what we need. What do we need? We need more clergy. So if there's anybody out there watching, we need more clergy. Now, I'm not willing to just take anybody, but if God is calling you to the Diocese of Brandon, let me know, okay? Because we need more clergy. We also need the funds to run the things, and we need things for the camp and all those things. But at the same time, I also believe, and I am willing to say this at every diocesan meeting and every congregation I go to, that God provides us the things we need when we need them. We might not have them ahead of time, even though we might want them. But when we are called on to do something, or we're called on to step up and participate in something, we have the gifts we need when we need them. So that being said, I have to remind myself of that sometimes because it comes back to this whole feeling inadequate thing. Because the fact is that this particular group speaking on these particular topics that are really big and really important internationally for the Anglican Communion, these particular bishops were chosen because of the very things that they had in their background, their experience, their education, their work jobs, their things like that. That's why they're there, because they are, as they say in the military, SMEs, subject matter experts, SME. This is their bailiwick. This is what they understand, they love, they've got history in it, and they bring it to the table so that all of us can share. And I don't know about you, but most of the world, probably if we're honest, look in the mirror and from time to time, if not quite often, think to ourselves, I'm kind of inadequate. What do I bring to the table? I'm just me. I've never been an international speaker. I haven't got a PhD. I'm not, I don't have a really high IQ. I don't have lots of bucks. I don't have all, I'm not the Vanna White of the church. I have nothing special to offer, except you do. You have the very gifts and the experiences and the background that God has helped you find, or that maybe you've gone completely against God's will and you have experienced and done things that were completely not what God wanted you to do. And yet, the way God works is that nothing is for naught. There is no stupid thing you've ever done that God can't take a learning from that and help you apply it someplace else. If I had a nickel for every time I was able to help someone deal with a problem or deal with a situation, not because I'm brilliant, but because I've been there before and done the stupid thing before, I would be a millionaire. My diocese would have no financial worries whatsoever. The fact is, when we walk into situations or we find ourselves doing a new thing or called to participate in something, it's not an accident. It's not an accident. God uses in our vocations, whatever that, as a bishop or a priest or a deacon, as a teacher, as a stay-at-home mom, that's a job, that's a big job, as a garbage worker, whatever you do, whatever your vocation is, wherever you feel that God has called you to work and live and have your being, God is using every single thing from your past, all of your previous experiences, even if you don't think they're fantastic or, worthy of being emblazoned on the strip of Las Vegas, even if you don't think those things are amazing, God still uses them in amazing ways because we are not inadequate in the things that God calls us to do. We might start out that way because we need to study, we need to learn, we need to practice. But when the time comes and we're down to the crunch and it's okay, step up, now's your moment, we are no longer inadequate for whatever that task might be. We've been brought there by God and we can do it. Guaranteed, we can handle it. We may not feel like we can handle it, but we can. I I know I am not called to be on any international committees. I don't have a PhD or a THD or any of those things, and I don't actually have any desire to do that either. I am just me, and I bring what Rachel Parker brings to the table, and that is a diverse background of living in many places across this country, having served in many different church backgrounds, different dioceses, and learning different things, having met incredible people, having been involved in different volunteer things, that all of which from time to time pop up. And all of a sudden I realize I'm not inadequate. I know the answer to that. I know how to deal with that. I can bring some knowledge and expertise about that to the table. And if it's not expertise, at least I can bring some experience. And guess what? When those things happen, turns out I'm one of the ones who's meant to be at the table. Don't ever let somebody else's successes in your life and the people you know and the people you see when you go back for a or a school reunion, don't ever let yourself believe that their successes somehow trump yours because they don't. They are leading, they're living their life leading into their gifts and skills and the experiences that they've had that God has chosen to share with them. And you are doing things that they couldn't do because they haven't had your experiences. There is no inadequacy in your life. The only place you might feel that is within yourself. But I pretty much guarantee you that if you were to look around and ask people what they honestly think of you, 90% of the people in your life would not think that inadequacy would be in your vocabulary. There's always the haters. We'll ignore that 10%. But the reality is, you are an expert in your own life. Bring your expertise to the table whenever you're called. And don't worry about being inadequate because when you come to the table, I guarantee you, no matter what table you go to, even though you bring your own expertise to the table, there will be things that you don't know yet. You're not inadequate in it yet. You're just inexperienced or unknowing about it. You'll learn. And as you learn and experience, then you develop those adequacies and you become one of the contributing members at that table. You just might not know what that table might look like yet, but be prepared. Be prepared when someone says, could you serve? What do you think? We're going to try this new thing. Say yes. and then bring all of who you are to the table because that's exactly what God needs. Have a great day. God bless. I'll see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.